Sounds good.
Partial of a story. I don't really know all the details, but it's very interesting. Okay. Officially live. Ladies and gentlemen, as you join, drop into the chat box and say hello and let us know who's calling and who's here. I've got Brandon Vaughn with me today. Brandon you probably know Brandon, founder of HireBus, but I'm going to dig into your background in just a minute. But first of all, it's really good to see you. How are things going out in Oregon?
Thank you, man. Things are going great. I'm in Washington State now. We moved up from Oregon a couple of years ago.
Okay.
It's actually sunny in the Pacific Northwest right now, which is always a win because it's otherwise really crappy weather all the rest of the time. So I'm enjoying it while I have it.
Right. You don't live in some small, like amazingly beautiful town like Snoqualmie or something like that, do you?
I live in a small town called Woodland. And we live up on the hill, have a little bit of property. I wouldn't say it's like a quaint, cute town like a Snoqualmie or one of those, little ones. It's kind of like you drive through it on I-5 and it's like, oh, that was a city. It's kind of like one of those cities, a little more rural.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, again, as friends, when you're jumping in, I see a few people jumping on live. Just say hi in the comments so that we can say hi back. And cool. In like 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so, we're going to give away a couple of tickets to the huge convention. But the main thing I want to do is dive in. I've got 5 specific questions for Brandon today. So,
all right, man, let's do it.
Those of you that don't know, Brandon's got a deep background in home services. I guess you started working with your dad when you were like 13, 12.
Yeah. It's somewhere in that range. I mean, do you classify I started working with my dad when he had me fold his towels after he'd come home and have the big bundle and he'd come out of the dryer and he's like, all right, I'll pay you, a penny per towel you fold. Yeah. Because in that case, I was probably 5.
Okay.
Been around home services though my entire life. Had a pressure washing, exterior cleaning, window cleaning company that I scaled up and sold. But absolutely love the industry. I think it's one of my favorite industries still. And really, really pumped to come back to the huge convention.
Yeah. You've got several in the home service industries, from power washing to concrete floor coatings and wise coatings, and turned that into a franchise. And now you were co-founder of HireBus, and you're building that into a giant brand. And apparently to solve a critical problem that home service business people face, and that is hiring. So yeah. I got to rewind the clock. When was the first huge convention you went to?
I want to say it was 2013, maybe.
Yeah. Where was it located? Was the one in Maryland, or were you before that? Did you go to?
Oh man, that's a good question. I'd have to go back and check, but I know that it wasn't at all what it is today. I've been to the one in Branson. I went to the one in Atlanta, and those are the ones where I remember it a little bit more. I'd gone to a couple different events when I first kind of got started. And really, I think the huge convention was the first time where I just realized how big the industry is and how there's a whole bunch of other people that have the exact same problems that I do. It was one of the first times where I just didn't feel alone. That was really powerful for me to realize that the value of it was just being in the hallway and talking to 5 people and just shooting the breeze and us commiserating with each other. I think that was very, very eye-opening, pretty pivotal moment for me.
Yeah, that is such a big deal to recognize that you're not alone, because we generally operate on islands. Yeah. You're in your own market. You're not talking to the other guy that does what you do, because they're like, oh my God, competition. But, in 2016,
it's hard to know on Facebook who's the good people that you want to take advice from and who's not. But when you're there in person and you actually get to know them, shake their hand, sit down, talk to them as a human, it's just different. It's different when you have that in-person feel and get a sense for people. And people are like way less keyboard cowboyish when you're in person. Like I don't have people saying the kind of crap that they will say online to me when I'm in person. I don't see that happening. It's like so refreshing to not have people just have the shield, the shield of their screen to protect them.
Yeah. So, all right, the first time I met you was the first time I went to the huge convention. It was the one in National Harbor in 2016. And I remember, like, I didn't know who anyone was. I think I'd heard the name Chris Lambrinides because I was a customer, and Josh Latimer because he was starting to do some, get a little more online presence. And you spoke in a breakout session, and your topic was how to hire fiercely loyal employees.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
I didn't know who you were. I didn't know anything about you, but I was like, I have got to go to do that, to go see that, because at the point in time, my mindset was, why would anyone want to work with me? It's just window cleaning. Right. It was so, like, I denigrated myself in the industry and thought, oh, it'd just be terrible if somebody, they should get a real job. And and then I went through your just listen to you, just a 45-minute, hour long, and I was like, oh my gosh, this can be a noble calling. Like, we can give meaning to people. And then the idea that someone could be loyal in a service business it cracked my perspective and opened up the doors for me to actually build a business. So thank you. I never told you that.
Well, I'm a good parrot. I'll say that to start off with. I don't feel like any concept that I have learned or absorbed is really of my own originality. There's a lot of mentors and books and coaches and things that I have just tried to absorb over the years. And one of them that was really influential that I actually talked a lot about even in that session was The Dream Manager by Matthew Kelly, which really changed the game for me. Because I had every employee problem in the book when I first kind of started. I'd never had more than one single employee before I started scaling my business, and ran it that way as an owner operator for years and years. My dad ran it as owner operator for 33 years. So, I just did a lot of really stupid things and said dumb things to employees, caused them to quit, caused them to turn cancerous. A lot of delayed expectations that I would set with employees about how fast we were going to grow and what kind of positions they could occupy, and giving people titles that are too big for them too early on. And that book really helped me, I'd say, kind of understand the correct way to kind of tie people's goals and dreams to the business objectives rather than just on tenure or how long they've been there. It tied it more to getting them to understand and think a little bit more like a business owner. And before I kind of put that in place, I constantly struggled with employees and kind of motivating them and get them to kind of understand and think a little bit more like an owner as opposed to just a cog in the system.
Yeah, for sure. Was Dream Manager, did that kind of spark your obsession with hiring? With not with hiring, but getting good at it?
That was definitely a big one. I'd say that one helped me understand company culture a lot better. The marketing principles, $100 million offers was you can apply that to marketing. When you think about the job ads that someone writes, oftentimes they're very vanilla. They don't really mean anything. And actually, I got this idea from Josh, who had talked about, playing around with your job ads, wanted gas-powered squirt gun operators and, having hooks for job ads that just were different and caught people's attention.
Yeah.
And kind of selling the vision of what's in it for them and talking more about them, using the word you more than use the word like we or us or I, and speaking to them in a little bit different of a way. So, marketing books, Start With Why, Simon Sinek, Leaders Eat Last, Dream Manager obviously was pretty big influential book. The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, looking at your business as it's kind of its own entity, not your own personal identity.
Yeah.
That was kind of really, transformational for me. So like I said, I feel like I'm a good parrot. I'm not super original, I don't think. I think I just like to absorb. And then I think maybe a superpower of mine is just like executing really fast when I hear something.
Yeah. Michael Gerber, E-Myth, he spoke at a Conquer Summit once, didn't he?
Yeah, he was the Home Service Super Summit where we got our Guinness World Record for the world's largest virtual event. That was, he came in and he spoke. That was kind of a dream come true. It was pretty surreal being on that call with him and interviewing, what I consider to be like a business hero of mine. Actually talking to him in person was a little bit eye-opening, but he's a pretty A pretty powerful book that he wrote.
Yeah. Yeah. He's definitely a huge influence for anybody that's gone from, technician to, had the entrepreneurial spasm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
They've gone that way. Funny with that, you said it was different interviewing him. Last year, we had Donald Miller, who was a keynote, and I interviewed him. But getting prepared for that for a couple of weeks, maybe a month beforehand, I started listening to his podcast, but I listened to it on 1.5 speed, like while I was mowing the grass or out for a walk. And then we sat down to interview, and I was like, why is he talking so slow?
That's funny, man. Oh, I love that.
It took a minute, but that was classic. Well, in the world of hiring, because like you've really pushed into that hard. We spoke a few weeks ago. You're talking about with Wise Coatings. You guys have, as a franchise family, you've got like hundreds of people on the bench waiting for a position, which is a phenomenal position that is probably completely foreign to every small business owner in history. But what I want to ask you is, tell me about, and maybe you go all the way back to when you were hiring before you got good at it. Give me a story about hiring gone wrong.
Oh boy, which one? I'll share with you one of my biggest weaknesses. I have low criticality, and I am not a good interviewer. I'm not a good judge of people's skill sets and some of their qualities, because criticality is the measure of a desire to be critical of people and things. Mm-hmm. And I have a very low desire to do that. I think everyone's awesome. I love people, and I give them lots of grace to a fault. I allow a lot of things to happen. And it's part of the reasons why I got walked on a lot in my early entrepreneurial days. Had some things kind of like backfire on me, but I just like people. And so I'm interviewing people. I look for all the reasons why they're great and why they would be good, as opposed to looking for all the reasons why they would be bad and why they shouldn't work here. And it's not natural for me to have that kind of a critical lens. I wear rose-colored glasses with a lot of people. So I'm not allowed to make hiring decisions in my companies. These final hiring decisions. I need people to filter and screen and prioritize and do that critical pass, and then kind of look for me either as a confirmation step, or if I do it, I have to have someone else do that confirmation step. Hey, look at my blind spots, kind of see where I'm missing. So I'd say that most of my horror stories are really kind of tied up in there, where I would give employees too much grace. When they asked for draws, I would give them draws. When they, were doing things wrong, I would excuse a lot. I didn't like confrontation. I wouldn't talk to them about it. And it would escalate, and it would get bad, and it would get ugly, and then it would explode. And it's a pattern that I've observed lots over the course of my career. And I kind of tie it back to that. And it's really interesting because as a parent, I don't really do this nearly as much. I'm like very consistent with my kids. I give them, immediate feedback. I'm good at discipline. I, provide that a lot. And there's this proxy in parenting, and also with having employees on your team and treating them with that same level of consistency, that as soon as you see them falling off the standard, you just nip it in the bud. Don't have to come down heavy or hard, but you just have to be consistent. Yeah. Most of my issues that I had have kind of stemmed from that, and not providing that kind of feedback. And the other thing I'll say is I'm a horrible manager. I'm a terrible, terrible, terrible manager, because it requires a certain level of consistency of, meeting with, and I'm good at like inspiring and getting people excited about the vision, but I can fail in that department to deliver on that vision if I don't surround myself with really good integrators that can make that vision a reality. So I have to work very diligently at setting up people on my team to make sure the things that I kind of set as a vision or cast as an opportunity actually can come to fruition. And I would make that mistake a lot over the years as well. So it's kind of a bucket of employee problems, I'd say, rather than like one single employee story, but there's a lot nested in there, including some legal issues that resulted from some of those mistakes I've made.
Yeah. I hope we're far enough away from it that we can laugh.
We absolutely can.
Yeah, go. Okay.
Actually, one of the pictures that we took while sitting in an attorney's office during mediation, my wife and I actually took a selfie photo of us actually genuinely laughing. And the attorney was kind of confused. He's like, wow, you guys can't believe you're laughing about this already. I'm like, what else can you do? Like, these are first world problems. We were dumb. We didn't know any better. And those I remember at that moment just thinking, I'm going to make so much more and I want to provide so much more value to other people because I can share the things that I learned from this moment, and it'll help a lot of other people as well as me not continuing to make this mistake. And so it's just a bump, your mess becomes your message kind of thing that people have said before. And I try to adopt that mindset as fast as I can, if possible.
Right on. So in building HireBus, so like first you built systems to hire within your own companies, and now you got HireBus. And I was doing some research on HireBus, and one of the stats that I came across was really fascinating, not surprising, but amazing, is that normal hiring for me, if I'm hiring somebody new, it's going to take 23 hours. With HireBus, it cuts it down to about 3 because it's a system and it's operating at a higher level than I can operate because I don't have that level of expertise. But did you benchmark that in a way where you go, let's get this down to a thing? Or what are you trying to accomplish for the small business guy? Well, within the context of hiring,
most business owners, when you think about all the things that are required for you to hire correctly, it requires writing ads, split testing ads, putting spend behind it. And then let's say you get 100 applicants that come through the system. There's resumes to read, there's interviews to have, there's application questions to ask them, there's filtering, there's prioritizing, there's understanding, who's who, there's scoring people, there's giving them behavioral assessments, there's conducting phone screenings, first round of interviews, second round of interviews, and so on and so forth. And it becomes, at the end of the day, very administrative heavy. And one of the best use cases that we kind of saw early on a couple of years ago for AI is removing a lot of these very heavy AI driven tasks, and not just putting levels of automation, but actually putting levels of intelligence behind it, where we can score, we can look for predictive indicators. And the interesting thing is that every month that goes by, because we record all of our interviews, we record all of our applications, our data set that we have that is now, 7 figures deep worth of candidates and resumes and applications. And, there's so much data that is enabling us to more intelligently match and predict people's success. Now it's an ongoing continued effort. It's the best we've ever been, but it's also the worst we'll ever be. These models continue to go and develop more. So we built it in a way where as new models launch and ship, our entire platform becomes unbelievably smarter because we can just kind of push and point to these different AI systems. And our data set is really kind of where the secret sauce is. So that administrative reduction of time is what we're ultimately aiming to do. Our vision for it is, hey, Val, I need to, hire a assistant technician for one of my crews. And Val's like, okay, great. Let me go out and I'll put him on your calendar. That's how simple we want the process to be, where you just have this unbelievably talented HR person that deeply knows your business and remembers it and can see the performance of the people on your team and can go out and finely tune who those best people are and proactively outreach to them as well, not just look for the job board seekers, which is what I'm really excited about.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. When I was going through it, I was like, the thing that got me most excited was the idea of no matter how many applicants there are, I just get to interview the top 1 or 2% of all the applicants, right? Because it does drive me bananas that you put an ad out on, if it's on Indeed, and people, I guess they could just click a button and go apply.
Yeah.
Because then you have to go through
job ads in 30 minutes is how quickly you can apply for jobs on Indeed. It's pretty
it's nuts. And then you respond to them and they're like, what job is this? I'm like, oh, did you not apply for it? Like you just clicking a button.
It's funny. We actually have an inverse problem that's happening where people will like check in with us and say, hey, is everything okay? Because I'm seeing lots of applicants that are coming through, but I haven't booked any appointments on my calendar. Mm-hmm. It's like, yes, that's actually what is working, because
that's good.
you have 40 people that are in there and you don't have any interview schedule. Imagine if you had to talk to all 40 of those people to understand that you don't want to interview any of them. They don't have the relevant, skill set. So the goal is to turn that down to where you are just talking to, the best people. And that's the fun part of trying to kind of solve that problem. Yeah,
for sure. I did. This is several years ago. Dan Platt and I were on a show together. We're talking about the cost of hiring. And I know that you got to place the ads and it takes time and blah, blah, blah. But he's a numbers guy and he broke it down. We did it live and he just pulled out his calculator and he's like, based on what you're telling me, it'll cost you $4,600 every time you hire somebody. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know. Like, I didn't have that awareness of like, how about if I just pay these good guys more to keep them?
Right.
And, I'd rather give my guy $4,000 not to leave than to spend money to, unless you have to add more, not replace people. But it's like, hiring's expensive in money, but also in time and the emotional drain if you have to deal with a bunch of yahoos. So I'm delighted with what you guys have built. You're going to be teaching at the huge convention breakout session. What is the ultimate hiring flywheel?
What is the ultimate hiring flywheel? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be teaching on the Oasis, but the ultimate hiring flywheel is basically a concept after the Jeff Bezos business model on Amazon, where he discovered these 4 levers that he could push on to drive growth inside of his business. And once you drive on each one of these 4 sections, you create this momentum effect where you're pushing and getting this big, heavy mechanical flywheel up to speed. And once you get it up to speed, it requires very little maintenance to keep it spinning and keep it going, a little kick every once in a while. And on the business side of things, when it relates to hiring, there's these 4 areas that you can also push on and focus on your customer experience and everything else that continually drives a system that will attract people into your business on autopilot. And it's not just about going out and spending money on Indeed. It's about building something internally that draws people into your business through referrals and through outreach and talking to people that aren't just actively searching for jobs. And that's where you can oftentimes find a good section of the population that are really, really excited to switch up their careers and come work for an awesome company like yours.
Yeah, they'd be fiercely loyal there in the pocket. So, what is Oasis? Because when I read your title, I didn't. It's not that I didn't understand. It said Oasis or How to Build the Ultimate Flywheel. I was like, is that we're calling it the same thing? Oasis is synonymous with How to Build the Ultimate Flywheel. So what is Oasis? And forgive me for dorking that up.
No, not at all. Not at all. I think there's actually two sessions that I'm speaking on. So I think that's why there's the 2 that are there.
Okay.
But Oasis, when running Conquer for a period of time, there was a lot that I learned there. And we really kind of focused on helping people get from like the 0 to 7 figures. That's kind of what Conquer got really, really good at. We created a lot of 7-figure business owners.
Yeah.
But then now the problem was, okay, we got all these 7-figure business owners that are wanting to continue to grow. They thought that like $1 million would save them. It's not. Like $1 million revenue is actually cash flow purgatory. And you have to kind of push a little bit above that and get some directors and other managers and people on your teams to be able to actually free yourself up. And there's all these new systems and processes and people that you need to bring in. And so Oasis is kind of that revamping of the 5 stages of business growth that I really have spent the last several years kind of rethinking through and redesigning. And I'm really proud of it. I'm proud of it because it helps you get a lot of clarity on your organization chart of exactly who you should be bringing in and when.
Mm-hmm.
And then the higher level things that you need to work on when your business is at 7 figures around the infrastructure and the strategy side of your business, whether that goes down acquisitions or whether it goes through greenfield growth, multi-location, and what are some of those people and positions that you need to be able to actually accomplish some of that. A lot of it's through the learnings that I've gone through in my business, but also just, studying people and having really good coaches and mentors and looking at people more successful than me, even as to how they think through those things. So it's a pretty awesome exercise. I'm excited to go through it with those that come to the workshop.
Oh, that's very cool. Excuse me. It's very cool. Well, I've got to wrap up because I have another live stream in about 8 minutes. So I'll need to switch over. I think did Morgan Knox work with you with, with Conquer, and now she's with House Call Pro. So I get to interview her next. Anything I need to razz her about or tell her for you?
Morgan's amazing. She's absolutely awesome. She's incredibly sharp, very smart. She's good with AI. She deeply understands numbers. I love how her brain works. So tell her I said hi, and tell her I'm looking forward to seeing her in Nashville this year.
Okay, great. Well, I'm delighted. Again, I don't know if there's been a huge convention you have not been at since when I saw you in 2016. I think you've been all of them.
I think I've been to all of them too. Yeah. I don't think there's been any that we've missed, and we've brought my whole family with, and we're going to continue to do that. So it's nice to be able to see other people with their families as well. I'm looking forward to seeing people for sure. So if you haven't got your ticket yet, what are you waiting for? It's, my goodness. What's wrong with you? Go get it now.
Now.
Right now. Or DM me. I'll hook you up.
That's right. You got to talk to Brandon. He's got some tickets waiting for you right now. Well, cool. I appreciate you. I do have, let's end the live stream. I'm asking you one thing before we go. So
okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on, Sid. And thank you guys for tuning in.